right, folks, welcome to another edition of Outspoken. I'm Dan Sileo, and what an amazing Sunday we have set up for you. You have Championship Sunday at Augusta. So much drama we saw coming out of the Saturday round, moving day, and sure enough, it was moving day, and it is setting up for high drama there at the Augusta National. But first and foremost, let's get into the NBA. I mean, this past Friday, folks, I want to put this in proper perspective. What is the NBA doing here? What are they doing? A third of the league did not want to play or with illness or injury on Friday. That filled 11 rosters of NBA teams of players not wanting to play for whatever reason. 168 players missed games on Friday. As I said, it's a third of the league. The average NBA player makes between 3.8 and 6.7 million bucks. That comes out to around $81,000 per game. And if you're somebody like Kawhi Leonard that makes over $500,000 a night, and you know what Kawhi Leonard does, he plays like 65 ball games just so he can be in the conversation for those league awards. You're taking off all those games at $500,000 a night. How do you sell that to your fan base? How do you look your fans in the face and say, with some of the most expensive ticket prices, hey, come watch us play. Let's support this league. Hey, we're here, and you're supposed to be ambassadors of your own sport. How are you not engaged in wanting to play in your regular season? How do you sell that to fans? Listen, I know that most of the NBA players think the world is California and New York. Most of America are blue-collar workers. They get up off their asses each and every single Monday through Friday, and they go to work whether they're sick or whether they're not. You can't sell that to the American public that you're taking nights off. 11 rosters, a third of the league, did not play on Friday. How in God's name again are you in selling your sport? Adam Silver has got a massive problem with how he has these players not engaged with these regular season games. Like I said, if you buy one of these tickets and you go to one of these games and you're not going to, there's a 35% chance that you're not going to see your star players. Why would I spend my disposable income on the NBA? We just come off the NCAA and we saw record-breaking ratings. Folks, this is not a basketball issue. This is an NBA issue. This is a Players Association issue. This is an Adam Silver issue. I mean, you go back, and I'm going to sound like, oh, man, get off my lawn here. Michael Jordan had a love of the game clause in his contract. That meant this. I'm playing no matter what, and you can't tell me, and I'm playing through injuries, and I'm doing every single thing I can because the fans of Chicago want to see me play at the United Center back in the day. Look at his line, 81, 81, 81. Folks, that's not points. Those are games played. That's what made that era great. Hey, let's not forget what Magic and Larry did when they came out of the dark ages of the NBA, when they were putting those championship games on late at night and they were tape delayed. Do you know that the 79 game, the championship game between the Sonics and the Washington then Bullets, was on tape delayed? Magic and Larry got into the league and just changed the way the American public started consuming the NBA. We wanted to see it. It was appointment setting. Michael Jordan took that baton and sent it to a new level where we watched NBA basketball because we wanted to see MJ. This new current group with Kevin Durant and with LeBron James, I'll give LeBron this. He has done something that I thought no superstar would ever do in a sport. You know what that is? He was a guy that actually lost viewership. When Kobe Bryant was on top of his game, Kobe was must-see television. People wanted to watch Kobe Bryant and Shaq play. Shaquille O'Neal, same thing. Charles Barkley, all those great players, they wanted to watch those guys play because they played each and every single night. Today's NBA guys like Kevin Durant has more engagement on social media than he does in games during a regular season. He cares more about his social media platform than he does about the platform that he represents with the NBA. You got to give me a break here. Listen to that number. You could have filled 11 rosters. 11 rosters. There's 30 teams in the NBA. And these guys didn't want to show up to work on Friday. This is absolutely disgusting. How can you promote a sport? How can you push that to your fans and say, hey, we want you to come watch us play when you don't even want to go and play? How do you support a sport that you hate as players? Hey, guys, I don't know about you, but I loved football, and I loved playing the game. I just loved it. I still love the game of football. That will never leave me. Getting out there and playing like Michael Jordan, I wish I could take a magic pill to go back out and play again because I love that game so much. How do you not love the sport? You're Kawhi Leonard making over $500,000 a night, and you take the night off? I don't know where Adam Silver goes from here, but my friends, you got a major problem in the NBA. That sport is unwatchable. This is not a basketball issue. This is an NBA player issue. I don't give a crap about showing up and playing on a nightly basis when it's a privilege to play in front of fans. I truly don't get it. Also, hey, on Sunday, one thing I will be watching, that is the Masters. Championship Sunday. Listen, Rory McIlroy ends up dinking one at 16. He ends up bringing the pack back. 36 holes. He was absolutely sensational. And what did Augusta do? It humbled him. Did it not? That course always humbles even the great ones. And we're going to see high drama. How about Scottie Scheffler roaring up the leaderboard? How about you have all these great players that are within shot of winning a major championship? You got Brooks Koepka coming off the LIV Tour, and you got an opportunity for him to potentially win another major championship. This is what Augusta brings. Each and every single year, it's just one of those appointment-setting events that we want to watch. 4 rounds of greatness. 4 rounds at Augusta. You know, it's the Super Bowl of golf. You know, you can make the argument U.S. Open is probably the most difficult championship to win. You can even throw the British Open in that conversation. But Augusta, there's something special. Remember, it's an invitational. The greatest players on the planet get an opportunity and an invitation to go there and play at Augusta. Rory's the defending champion, brings the pack back. You've got so many players within an opportunity to win this thing. Look, we all know the great history that's been made here. Jack, Arnold, Nick Faldo. Go down the list of some of the greatest moments of all time. One of the greatest moments for me was watching that 86 Masters with Nicklaus shooting a 30 on the back 9 to win his 6th green jacket in his 18th major championship. Can we see something like that again? Make no mistake, the Augusta National brings it out and brings the best out in everybody. This is what this appointment-setting event is all about. I'm looking forward to it. I don't know who wins on Championship Sunday at Augusta, but I can promise you this. We are going to get high drama on who ends up winning that green jacket. Super Bowl, it's the Super Bowl of golf. All right. Hey, my great friends at Morgan & Morgan, the #1 injury law firm in all of America for a reason. You know why? It's because they win. Family-owned, family-run, Ultima Morgan and John Morgan started this company over 30 years ago to serve clients and people across this great country. I tell you about the family in Pennsylvania that was initially offered $650K. They got nearly $30 million in settlement. Or the family in Florida that was initially offered $350K. They ended up getting nearly $12 million. Go to forthepeople.com /big sales or pound law 529. That's forthepeople.com /big sales or pound law 529. And do me a favor, you tell them Dan Sileo sent you. All right. We're going to talk some golf with Cam Stewart and also some NHL with him next, right here on SportsGrid.
The process is closed. Let's call it out for what it is, right? And is it their fault? You could argue, they've been just besieged at Embiid, but it just continues, Kevin, right? As soon as Don't worry about my health, and and then here we are, right? I would have traded him a couple of years ago. I would have gotten ahead of the curve, Kevin.
Game time decisions only on SportsGrid.
For those people who use YouTube, there's a new feature that is powered by AI. And what is this exactly, Simon?
So let's say you're watching Yankees highlights, and you can say, YouTube, when is the next game at Yankee Stadium? You see that information on the screen. How much is the cost? What seats are available? You see that information on the screen. All right, call the Yankee Stadium box office. I want to make a reservation for 2 tickets.
Newswire only on SportsGrid.
Am I going overboard when I'm saying that? I've never seen anything like this.
He's damn good, and it seems like he has an extra focus on pitching. I saw him pitch with the Angels and hit with the Angels, and it seemed like hitting was what he was trying to prove. Maybe because guys like John Smoltz would come out and said, "Oh, he should be a pitcher only."
Outspoken with Dan Sileo only on SportsGrid.
Shocking reality, I think, for college basketball. Certainly the purists to see a legendary school struggle to land a current college heavyweight. But this is the new world order. Mike Malone is either going to be the greatest hire in modern college basketball history, or North Carolina is going to be conducting another incredibly expensive coaching search in the next couple of seasons.
The Early Line only on SportsGrid.
Truly one of the greatest events there is in all of sports has to be the Augusta National. And what I love about this is that Cam Stewart went green for us. Green jacket, green Sunday, Cam Masters Sunday. How are you, my friend? And here we are. You're all set up. Look at it. In honor of the Masters,
yes,
Cam Stewart is in green. I love it here. How you doing, my friend?
I'm a
All right.
Yeah, Cam O'Sullivan. Top of the morning to you, Dan. I will say this, though. The Masters, it's the gift that just keeps on giving. Unbelievable stuff. Like when I get a text from people, do you think Rory can implode? I'm like, yeah, he can implode. It's hard to hold to a lead. It's hard to sleep on a lead at Augusta. And we've seen what's happened before in the past, too. Like a lot of these guys can come out of nowhere. And I'll tell you, Dan, what an exciting final we have right now. Cameron Young, after his players win. This guy is one of the most confident players right now. Excellent ball striking. And what does it take to win? He caught a few breaks. A pine cone in the middle of the fairway, a branch in the middle of the fairway. So that's the thing. You need good breaks here. And all these guys, Sam Burns, he was on the bogey train and he's figured it out. Justin Rose, who basically, lost in a playoff to Rory McIlroy. One of the veterans, he's in the mix. Jason Day. One thing I've learned about this golf tournament, Dan, and me and you were grizzled vets. Old guys do well here for good reason. They know every slope, every side hill lie, where to miss. These are very important things at the Masters. Debutantes, it's hard for them to do well, but I'm telling you, I love this. Like next to the Stanley Cup Game 7, like the Masters, to me, it's magic. Like I've been watching every feed from Sky Sports to, everything. Like the minute this thing comes on the air, I'm watching every shot, and I'm telling you, there's going to be some opportunities today. Some of these groups heading to Amen Corner, there's going to be eagles, and there's going to be disaster too. You want to get greedy and pop it in the water, you go a little bit too far. Those 2 par 5s vital, and you got to get off to a great start. Probably the par 5 second. I think that's going to be important too. Get on a heater early, and then we'll see what happens, Dan. But there's going to be miracles and there's going to be carnage. This is what makes the Masters so exciting.
Absolutely, and to your point, Jose Maria Olazabal got out in the opening round. If you saw him, he was on the leaderboard there after 7. If you know the track and you're comfortable with the track, you understand all the nooks and crannies there with that golf course here. Let's go back to Rory here. What do you think happened? What happened to his game? Because when he dinked that at 16, you even heard him say, that's just god awful. What happened? Is he really that much of a streaky player?
Yes, he is. And the thing about Rory, which is shocking, Dan, is what's the worst part of his game? Putting. It saved him. Remember on the par 5 too, when he hit it in the back and he had to get over the undulations? I'm thinking this is a double or a bogey at worst. And then his chipping and putting, it saved him. This is the thing. Rory McIlroy has elusive power. We know he's one of the biggest hitters on tour. But the problem is, Dan, when he loads it up and he doesn't get it around and he comes over late, he's not missing the way other guys miss. They might miss in the first cut. His are going in the woods. And he's been very, very fortunate. I watched every shot of this tournament. He hasn't been under a tree. He's been very lucky in the pine straw, and he's been able to escape. It could have been a lot worse. Whereas looking at guys like Day, Burns, Cameron Young, a lot of them are straighter ball hitters. And Cameron Young, the one advantage he has too is he can hit it like Rory when he wants to. Remember the record-setting drive, hole number 18 at the Players versus Matt Fitzpatrick. That was special. Even the commentators are like, what the hell got into Cam Young? Like, he unloaded. And the thing is, he unloads straight. The thing about Rory, he can fight back from this. I think, you know what, Dan? I'm not an expert, and I think his caddy, Harry Diamond, should tell him, sometimes, buddy, you don't need driver. Just underclub it with a 3. Try to avoid the danger and get up and down, because your chipping and putting's been really good this weekend. But I'm telling you, a lot of these veterans have been close before. Justin Rose, 3 runner-up finishes, and he knows I can win this tournament. I can play with these guys. And literally all the way down to Cantlay at probably -6, somebody's got a chance, because some of these guys might go in a heater. Dan, I got to tell you this. I wake up on Saturday, Scotty Scheffler is 45-1. I checked the odds boards today before it started. He's 9-1. He's only 4 shots back. And you know what? Do you want to bet against this guy? He missed some putts yesterday too for 7 under. He could have shot like 9 under, 10 under. So I'm thinking if he plays the way he did yesterday and hits a couple of those putts, Scotty Scheffler might have a huge comeback and put on the green jacket, because he's only 4 shots back. And I can tell you one thing, Rory and Cam Young, they're looking in the rearview mirror going, this guy's so dangerous.
Absolutely. He shoots a 7 under 65. And some reporter asked him, what could have this round been? He looks at the guy and he goes, that's just a dumb question. And he's so confident going into this final. When I saw that clip, I absolutely loved it. He goes, that's just a stupid question.
Stupid question.
And of all
he's
the
surly
guys
these days, Dan. He's prickly these days. He had another kid, and he's totally different. The thing about Scotty Scheffler before, sorry to interrupt, Dan, but he was like chill and they go, oh, everything's cool. Now I see him chuck clubs, whatever. But hey, all he has to do for this round is stay focused. And Dan, I don't know what's going to happen in this tournament. Nobody does, but I'll tell you, it's going to be an epic ending. I wouldn't be surprised if we had a playoff again.
Absolutely here. Gary Player made a comment prior to this tournament here. He said that the Masters is the 4th most difficult major to win. Do you agree with that?
So he said it's the easy. The hardest or the easiest?
The easiest. 4th easiest to win of all the major championships.
You know what? I'm actually I know Gary Player says some stupid stuff, and he told me I was fat and had to do 500 push-ups before he hits the alarm clock when I interviewed him. Guy's giving me health tips about butter and bacon. I'm like, Gary, I just need a soundbite, bro. Like, I'll talk to my doctor about this stuff when I get back to Canada. You're not my you're not my doctor. But I will say, for veterans, I think it is for them, because they know where to miss. The thing about the Masters is Tiger Woods can play this course blindfolded and still do really, really well. So once you've played it for like 8 to 15 times, Dan, you know every nuance of this course. Can't go at that flag. I'm going to attack here. That's a red light. That's a yellow light. That's a green light, right? And that's what I understand. The PGA Championship, for me, though, the Masters is the best. Like, out of the majors, I don't know how you feel about it. It is my favorite tournament every year. And I would say the Open Championship's my second favorite. US and PGA is obviously in the 4-hole. That's my rankings. Or US and British Open could be, interchanged, but the Masters is the best. Like, look at what kind of tournament do people know the holes of every hole other than the Masters? Because you see the same thing every year. It's like home cooking, a comfort meal, a person that you've known for years. You could just sit back, and the Masters is like a big hug from somebody you love. Like, it's just awesome. Like, I love this tournament so much, Dan. I can't even tell you. I can't wait.
Absolutely.
This afternoon.
The drama that I think this thing is going to give us here on Sunday, as it always does. I don't know if we're going to see 86 Jack, shooting at 30 on the backside, or what we saw in 2019 with Tiger Woods. But this thing's going to give us great drama. And because of Rory McIlroy letting everybody back in the pack here again. All right, we're going to talk some hockey. I could not wait to talk to you, because we got NHL playoffs coming around the corner. Cam Stewart's going to give us a breakdown of that next, right here on SportsGrid.
The process is closed. Let's call it out for what it is, right? And is it their fault? You could, they've been just besieged and Embiid, but it just continues, Kevin, right? As soon as he's like, don't worry about my health, and then here we are, right? I would have traded him a couple of years ago. I would have gotten ahead of the curve, Kevin.
Game time decisions only on SportsGrid.
For those people who use YouTube, there's a new feature that is powered by AI. And what is this exactly, Simon?
So let's say you're watching Yankees highlights, and you can say, YouTube, when is the next game at Yankee Stadium? You see that information on the screen. How much is the cost? What seats are available? You see that information on the screen. All right, call the Yankee Stadium box office. I want to make a reservation for 2 tickets.
Newswire only on SportsGrid.
Am I going overboard when I'm saying that? I've never seen anything like this.
He's damn good, and it seems like he has an extra focus on pitching. I saw him pitch with the Angels and hit with the Angels, and it seemed like hitting was what he was trying to prove. Maybe because guys like John Smoltz would come out and said, "Oh, he should be a pitcher only."
Outspoken with Dan Sileo only on SportsGrid.
Shocking reality, I think, for college basketball. Certainly the purists to see a legendary school struggle to land a current college heavyweight. But this is the new world order. Mike Malone is either going to be the greatest hire in modern college basketball history, or North Carolina is going to be conducting another incredibly expensive coaching search in the next couple of seasons.
The Early Line only on SportsGrid.
One of my favorite times of the year is also NHL playoffs. Folks, of all the professional sports leagues, I don't care if you're the last seed going into the West or the Eastern Conference playoffs. These guys have shots to go on and win a Stanley Cup because of the goaltending. And right now we're going to talk a little NHL with our friend Cam Stewart here. And first and foremost, before we start talking a little NHL playoffs here, I can't believe what I saw and read yesterday. Cam, is this right? We're going on a decade now of the Red Wings not in the playoffs.
That's
I mean,
crazy,
Stevie
Dan.
Y's got to be he's got to be in trouble right now. No, the GM there.
I think Stevie Y's he's done okay, but the thing is, how did this team not make the playoffs? Like, they were right there the whole time, and it's just really weird down the stretch. I'm like, why can't Detroit get there? And I know it's really hard in the National Hockey League to jump teams because of the point system, but Dan, it'll never change because this is what Gary wants. You can't, you know what I mean? You have to win in regulation. You can't lose. You can't win in overtime or a shootout and let your opponent who you're trying to chase get a point on you. If they went to the 3-point system, it would be awesome. You know what I mean? But the problem is half of the teams would be done and the playoffs would be set like a month and a half earlier, and that would really piss off the league. But I'm with you. Detroit, Patrick Kane, older guys, they got some good young players on the team. But I'm going to tell you, Dan, their goaltending is subpar. They can't be rolling out the guys that they have. It's just not happening. They don't get key saves when they need to. They've tried everything. The defense is a little bit small as well. That's when I look at the Buffalo Sabres, I go, they got Rasmus Dahlin. They pick up all these guys. Their defense are killers. So when you have two goaltenders like Alex Lyon, who's a career backup, and Luukkonen, who's never done anything in this league, they can be okay because the Buffalo Sabres playing that team defense and guys with long reach and blocking ability, that's the thing. They could beat you with speed and defense. That's Detroit's problem. I think they have a couple guys on the offensive side that are good enough, like Larkin, and they have really good players on their team. The problem is their back end, not physical enough. Their goaltending, they don't get big saves. But Dan, heading into the playoffs, we still have so many teams alive. That's the beautiful thing, right? Utah clinched a playoff spot. Kings are right there right now in the West. In the East, what's going to happen? We could see it like Columbus is hanging on by a thread. The New York Islanders still mathematically in, but they got to run the table. So this is very, very interesting. And we have two big games today. We have this Columbus Bruins game, man, and that's a huge, huge game for both of these teams right now, right? So if Columbus finds a way to win, then the Bruins got to worry a little bit too. That's how tight these races are. Literally like 4 or 5 teams within a couple points.
So let me throw this at you here. Keith Jones comes out of the broadcast booth, and he goes into the front office there with the Philadelphia Flyers, and Daniel Briere's in there with them too. Have you been surprised with the turnaround with the Flyers?
Absolutely. Absolutely, because at the start of the year, I'm looking at the Flyers going, just another year with the Flyers. But a lot of their young guys, know what it was too, Dan? Every team needs a star. And I watch Zegras play now, and he has changed totally. When he was in Anaheim, he was a good offensive player, but very sloppy with the puck. Stupid penalties, not a two-way player. He looks magnifying. The veterans on that team, really, really solid, right? And they're getting goaltending. That's the whole thing about the Philadelphia Flyers. And they've always had one thing, physicality. They're kind of an interesting team. And you brought up the best point, Dan. You're like, I don't care if you're a wild card team, you get in at 8. You live in Florida. Remember when the Columbus Blue Jackets beat Tampa Bay? That's serious. And that's the thing. It's just like hockey's different. It's over. There's too many games. It's not like usually a lot of the time, football, whatever. You can have a one-off. In college basketball, a team can go 60% from three-point land. That's what the crazy thing was. Columbus beat these guys in a series, and once you get that win and get confidence, you get goaltending, your stars play, and you find a way to play defense, Dan, anything can happen. And it's so hard to pick a Stanley Cup winner because literally you and I could come up with, what do you think, Dan? 6 to 8 teams that have a chance, maybe?
Yeah. Absolutely here. I always keep an eye on the Carolina Hurricanes because the former Hartford Whalers, those kind of near and dear to me because I'm from Connecticut.
I love that
They're
team.
Pretty good team this year, huh? They look like they could go and do something in the playoffs.
Here's the thing, Dan. It's now or never. The Carolina Hurricanes have been one of the most talented teams in the year all the time. They lose to Florida. They lose to Tampa Bay. When are they going to get over the hump? Now you don't have to deal with the Florida Panthers. You got the Tampa Bay Lightning who are dangerous. But I'm looking at the East going, Carolina, if you can't get it done now, if you can't get by a team like Boston or anybody else here, you're right, Dan. But I'm telling you, Rod Brind'Amour, great coach, great player, one of my favorites, actually. Like when I watched hockey when I was younger, Rod Brind'Amour is the perfect type of player. But enough is enough. If the Carolina Panthers don't go to the Stanley Cup final, if the Carolina Hurricanes don't go to the Stanley Cup final, I think it's a lost season. And I think they have to do a lot of soul searching, and they're going to have to blow it up soon because I don't care what you do in the regular season. President's trophies, high finishes, whatever. What do you do in the playoffs? That's where the men come out to play. And that team always found ways to lose close games in the playoffs. They got to get over the hump this year.
Absolutely. And hey, 10 seconds. Lindy Ruff, is he the Jack Adams winner?
He is. Actually, what he's done with that Sabres team at the start of the year, I'm like, these guys are done. Look what he's done now. Yes, Dan, I love that pick.
Cam, thanks, my friend. We're going to talk to Front Office Sports' Michael McCarthy next, right here on SportsGrid.
The process is closed. Let's call it out for what it is, right? And is it their fault? You could argue, they've been just besieged at Embiid, but it just continues, Kevin, right? As soon as he's like, don't worry about my health, and then here we are, right? I would have traded him a couple of years ago. I would have gotten ahead of the curve, Kevin.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
For those people who use YouTube, there's a new feature that is powered by AI. And what is this exactly, Simon?
So let's say you're watching Yankees highlights, and you can say, YouTube, when is the next game at Yankee Stadium? You see that information on the screen. How much is the cost? What seats are available? You see that information on the screen. All right, call the Yankee Stadium box office. I want to make a reservation for 2 tickets.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Am I going overboard when I'm saying that? I've never seen anything like this.
He's damn good, and it seems like he has an extra focus on pitching. I saw him pitch with the Angels and hit with the Angels, and it seemed like hitting was what he was trying to prove. Maybe because guys like John Smoltz would come out and said, "Oh, he should be a pitcher only."
Outspoken with Dan Sileo, only on SportsGrid.
Shocking reality, I think, for college basketball. Certainly the purists to see a legendary school struggle to land a current college heavyweight. But this is the new world order. Mike Malone is either going to be the greatest hire in modern college basketball history, or North Carolina is going to be conducting another incredibly expensive coaching search in the next couple of seasons.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Boy, I'll tell you what, there has been a lot of noise on social media this week, and the news of sports media is taken and gone to new heights now. You're seeing all these things with, broadcasting now when it comes to Amazon and it comes to how the Masters is being presented, so many platforms. But there was a massive story this week that really was front and center, and Diana Rossini and the Mike Vrabel story here. It's being reported, and I always read and always go to Front Office Sports. We have Michael McCarthy here with us now, the media guru for them. And I go to your page all the time, Michael, and right out of the gate here, I'm first hearing now that, these pictures were shopped around. Give me your fallout on what you think happens now after this story here with Diana Rossini, who's one of the great writers in the NFL and the head football coach of the Patriots, Mike Vrabel.
Yeah, I'll give you the latest status report. Front Office Sports was the first to report that the photos were shopped around. TMZ actually saw them, but didn't recognize Diana, so somebody was shopping around pictures of Vrabel. Then later this week, we reported that, in fact, The Athletic had done a U-turn, and rather than their public support of Diana, they were going to do this investigation of her and her reporting. Well, The Athletic has just confirmed that story. So really, we're in a holding pattern right now. You have The Athletic investigating its star NFL reporter and basically looking at her work to see, what the situation could be with Vrabel. So really, it depends on the results of this investigation. When Diana first commented on it, she said she was there as part of a group. So if there's some sort of exonerating circumstances, then I think she'll be back at the job. If there aren't, then, she might have a problem.
So I have a question for you on this, because she's got a lot of influence when it comes to the National Football League, Michael, and also when it comes to voting for Coach of the Year, and it also comes up for MVP. There was a 5-point difference when it came to the MVP voting between Matthew Stafford and Drake May, and also Coach of the Year, who she voted for, Mike Vrabel. So again, if you've got that kind of influence and you're talking to your friends, again, is that the kind of stuff they're possibly investigating? Because you also know that narratives can be put out by a top flight reporter like a Diana Rossini. We're not talking about some ham and egger guy that's on the internet with a blog. We're talking about somebody who the NFL truly respects here. What do you expect, and where area do you think this investigation goes?
Right. I mean, I think they're going to look at everything. Diana's a great reporter and a great person. Yep. So anybody knows her knows, she's got a great personality. She's funny. She's smart. She's great at her job. So she has a lot of supporters in the business. But you're right. Everybody likes to, tear people down. And the more successful you are, the more enemies you might have. I can't imagine the amount of enemies the Patriot organization has, for beating the hell out of everybody over the years and winning all those Super Bowls. I imagine Mike Vrabel has enemies professionally who are, resentful and jealous of him. And I'm sure Diana, being at the top of her profession, has enemies also. So, I give her the benefit of doubt. I give Vrabel the benefit of doubt until we see some conclusive proof. As risque as those photos were, they were not definitive. I don't know if you saw anything in there, Dan, that said, wow, this conclusively proves these two are having an affair, because I didn't. I think they're going to let the facts, take them to the conclusion. But here's the problem. If The Athletic feels that they didn't get the full story in the beginning, when they came out, Dan, with such a strong defense of Diana, if they feel they were lied to, that could be a problem too. Because as they always say, the cover-up is worse than the crime. Well, if the parties involved here weren't telling the truth to their respective employers, that could come back to haunt them.
So the New York Times, obviously The Athletic is owned by the New York Times here, and we now see them kind of walking back a little bit here, Mike. I mean, do you believe that this could end up coming back? Because first they say we're 1,000% behind her. Now it's being reported, and correct me if I'm wrong, they've taken her off her assignment while the investigation is going on. Do you see them walking back a little bit and maybe bending to the public opinion now that what these photos look like? Like you said, the view of it looks bad, but hey, tell me what you know. Now tell me what you're seeing. You know what I mean?
Right, Dan. I mean, I don't think it's a walk back. I think it's a run back. I mean, they did a complete U-turn from where they were on Tuesday night. Not only, have they said, they're investigating this, but essentially Diana is not going to be doing any more reporting. It's, describe that as you will, a quasi suspension, a benching. She's not going to be writing or reporting for the Times while this investigation is going on. So, my heart goes out to everybody involved, particularly the families, who have to go through this stuff. And, like we said, you and I both agree that the photos are not conclusive. This might turn out to be completely innocent and just a misunderstanding. But, the Times now is one of the great newspapers of the world. Obviously the Athletic is a great organization. Now that they're investigating it, they'll get to the bottom of it, I'm sure.
All right. So women in sports, Rachel Nichols, Joy Taylor. We see what happens all the time when you have stories like this, innuendos. Rachel Nichols is one of the great NBA reporters. And all of a sudden, you had that stuff with Jimmy Butler. And again, innuendos too, Mike. I know. And sometimes, again, that goes a long way in how people's perception is and how you get stories. I mean, how tough does it make it for women in broadcasting and in journalism?
It makes it very tough because, you have a certain segment of sports that doesn't want women involved at all as sideline reporters, as insiders, anything. They never played the sport, so they don't know it. And this, kind of story, the innuendos and the insinuations here play into that slur that a lot of female professional sports people have had to endure for decades. Now, I've worked with plenty of them. I know plenty of them, and they're great. They're great at their jobs, and, they don't deserve that kind of slur, and, this only brings that up. At the same time, let's not get ahead of ourselves here. Let the facts play out, and let's see if there is anything to, the story. I mean, really, what I'm thinking here is this goes beyond Diana and Coach Vrabel and the NFL. I think what it goes here is, Dan, this should send a shiver to everybody in sports. Because what it says to me, Dan, is that any yokel out there with an iPhone can be a paparazzi. I mean, by all indications, Dan, when we did our story, this guy wasn't a professional paparazzi. Maybe he was somebody who was, working at the resort and saw Vrabel with a woman who he didn't recognize and thought, oh, wow, I can make some money from TMZ. Maybe he was a private investigator, who was hired by somebody to dig up dirt on Vrabel. I don't know. But, I mean, everybody should, think to themselves, if you're out in public, just think that whatever you are or whatever you're doing, even if you think it's innocent, there could be a camera on you if you're famous.
Absolutely. Michael, I even threw this out. And again, I'm a talk show host here. So 30 seconds here. How do you know it wasn't another team in the league hiring a private investigator that's a rival that has a rear end, like you said, with the Patriots to go after Mike Vrabel and to even talk about this A.J. Brown trade, what have you? I mean, you've always got to be careful. I wonder what the NFL and how the NFL looks at this.
Yeah, the NFL has not commented on this. I've reached out to them. And I've seen that theory on, social media that it was another NFL team. The Eagles did it. Big Dom did it. Big Dom with the camera. I mean, every crazy, theory is out there. I personally don't think an NFL team did it. I think sometimes the explanation is simple. I think somebody recognized Vrabel and saw an opportunity to make some money and sold the picks or a public.
We'll finish this up, Michael, next right here on SportsGrid.
You wouldn't have your ex officiate your wedding.
Do you, Jake? Liar? Cheater? Gaslighter?
So why have anyone but America's largest injury law firm handle your injury case? With over $30 billion recovered for our clients, there's a reason to go big.
Gaslighter, coitus crier, he's got more red flags than a bullfighter's attire.
Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm.
How much do do you think tanking is hurting the NBA right now, too? And what we're seeing, like we saw with that Jazz and Orlando game a week ago, how much do you think that's hurting the game?
I can't wait until professional sports in the United States adopts a European model, especially like a Premier League model, and they start doing relegation. The day you start doing relegation, everything changes. Everything will change.
Outspoken with Dan Sileo, only on SportsGrid.
Well, I ended up adding this since our show started here, Rohit, but his points prop tonight at 20.5 is the same number from the Iowa State game. That's a bit of a mistake, right? When we consider the gap in opponents here, I think Peterson specifically steps up. He needs to. I think he kind of owes this team a great performance.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
I know that Florida lost at home to Auburn, and it's a real thing that happened. So you can't strike it from the record. But if you did, I think Florida's looked like the best team in college basketball for about 2 months. And I think there are a bunch of results that suggest that.
College basketball today, only on SportsGrid.
Welcome back. We bring you back with a boom here. Thank you very much. We got Michael McCarthy from Front Office Sports with us here, and we're going to get out of the TMZ world here, Michael, and we're going to go into some storylines here now. The NFL now has this now that they have purchased, or ESPN has purchased the NFL network, they now own 10% of ESPN. Conflict of interest?
It's a good question. I don't think so. I think the way consolidation works in this business, I don't think it's, a conflict of interest because everybody's doing it. I mean, TNT is a part of the new women's basketball league. I mean, I look at it more as an insurance policy if I'm ESPN, right? You've got the Monday Night Football package, and you want to keep one of the premier primetime packages. Now, you've got the NFL reopening its media deals. It's a lot harder to fire somebody who's a partner than it is just, a vendor of some kind, a network of some kind. So in essence, I think it's Jimmy Pitaro and ESPN taking out a very expensive insurance policy here. It also could be, a great move in a way, but it eliminates a competitor, right, Dan? I mean, the NFL Network, even though its, viewership has gone down as a result of cord cutting, is a competitor to ESPN. They have their own draft coverage. They have their own morning show. That all cuts into, ESPN. So ESPN corners the market on the NFL, and the NFL is by far the most valuable property in entertainment. I think it's a great move for them.
Let's go over to the Masters. Boy, I'll tell you what, I consumed a ton of Masters this week. And am I wrong, Michael? But did I see more platforms? Did I see more behind the scenes this year because of streaming with Amazon and all of this on how they presented this week's event? I mean, I couldn't get enough of it. Also, how do you think the Masters went about really presenting this year's Masters? Because it's been like no other year I've ever seen when it comes to the coverage.
Yeah, I mean, you compare this to Masters history, you're absolutely dead on. I mean, you're talking about a tournament that, when it was first televised, only showed the last 4 holes of the tournament. And now you've got morning to, the dusk coverage. You got Amazon coming in. Look, I think it's great. I think the way they've done it, particularly Amazon, is they made sure, with CBS involved in the production, that it looked and sounded very much like the Masters coverage. I mean, unlike some other newbies who tried to reinvent the wheel. Amazon came in there and it was seamless. You had Jim Nantz, you had Butler Cabin, you had, the little stories, the Southern stories, like who's that actor who was just on White Lotus? It was exactly like you'd see on CBS. So I think that was very smart. But you're right. I mean, the Masters has joined the 20th century or the 21st century, I may add. You know what I mean? There's streaming, there's TV, there's coverage, there's digital. It's great. I mean, if you're a golf fan, and even if you're not, I mean, Masters Week is one of my favorite weeks of the year. I'm like you, I just devour it.
Absolutely. I love it too. All right. So the Department of Justice has the NFL in their bullseye. And boy, I'll tell you what here, you're talking about double dipping on fans, cable bills, and now how they're packaging up and bundling up how you see games. Michael, when I wanted to watch NFL football on the holidays, I had to get Prime Video. I had to get Netflix. I had to get Amazon. I had to get Piedmont. You tell me on how this whole thing plays out here. Do you think the NFL's in trouble with the DOJ?
I think this is a very serious problem for the NFL because, there's a perception out there that they're chasing the last buck when it comes to media rights. And even though, the majority of their games are still on free broadcast TV, you're right. There's a lot of frustration out there amongst people having to buy this streaming package and that streaming package to get games. And look, the NFL has been the most brilliant league ever because they never went full cable and they never went pay-per-view, right? What happened to boxing? They went pay-per-view, they went closed circuit, they died as a sport. The NFL grew to be the most popular league in America because it was always available on free TV. And I think they should do everything they can to maintain that. Of course, the streamers are going to come and, they're going to want more and more. But, as you said, the government's pushing back. And people are starting to ask about this exemption that the NFL has had for decades. I think it's a serious problem they need to address.
Absolutely, because if I'm not mistaken, that DirecTV case ended up hitting them right between the eyes, and they lost that case. So this could play a factor here. Now, you mentioned pay-per-view. So you'd never see, like in the future, you don't think the World Cup, the Olympics, a Super Bowl potentially on pay-per-view? Because the way streaming is going, Michael, I mean, this is another avenue where you're seeing another revenue stream. In the NFL, always look where they are with the money. They chase the dollar bill and the cash register. Do you ever think you'll see that?
I do think it's a possibility down the road that you could see a pay-per-view Super Bowl. It depends on, whether the government would okay it. But let's face it, if there was a pay-per-view Super Bowl, what could they charge for it? They could charge $150, maybe more. And you know what? I'd pay it. So would everybody else. But again, that's very high risk, high reward. Imagine the potential backlash to that amongst fans who are used to, having the Super Bowl for free, amongst government regulators. I mean, that could be, one of the all-time money grabs. But boy, I'd hate to be the commissioner who made that decision because you're going to be in for a lot of trouble.
Hey, finally here, YouTube's place in all of this with the NFL. Where do you think their place is? I see they're teaming up with Fox now. They're going to have like a 5-game package coming up here this coming 2026 season. Where is YouTube in this whole landscape when it comes to presenting NFL games?
I think like Prime and I think like Netflix, they want more. The streamers are very smart in that in the beginning they were going after small sports. Now they go after the big ones. They go after the most valuable. They go after the NFL. They go after the Yankees. They go after, home run. They go after, these huge events and the biggest brands. So I think like a lot of all the streamers, they want more. But, can they get it? The broadcasters have woken up, Dan. I mean, it used to be that they would lend their talent to a YouTube or a Netflix to produce the game. That's not anymore. You go to Fox now and say, hey, can we use Kevin Burkhardt? And their answer is no. Can we use Tom Brady? No. ESPN the same way. So, there's been a real schism here where I think the broadcasters realize the NFL is the last thing holding up the Jenga block that's entertainment. And if they lose that, they're done for. So they're going to fight like hell.
Absolutely. I can't wait to see what happens this coming season. They're even talking about bailing on the 2026 TV right packages that they have. So, Michael, thank you so much. Make sure, folks, you check him out over at FOS Sports. Thanks, Michael. Sileo says right here on SportsGrid.
process is closed. Let's call it out for what it is, right? And is it their fault? You could, they've been just besieged and Embiid, but it just continues, Kevin, right? As soon as he's like, don't worry about my health, and then here we are, right? I would have traded him a couple of years ago. I would have gotten ahead of the curve, Kevin.
Game time decisions only on SportsGrid.
For those people who use YouTube, there's a new feature that is powered by AI. And what is this exactly, Simon?
So let's say you're watching Yankees highlights, and you can say, YouTube, when is the next game at Yankee Stadium? You see that information on the screen. How much is the cost? What seats are available? You see that information on the screen. All right, call the Yankee Stadium box office. I want to make a reservation for 2 tickets.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Am I going overboard when I'm saying that? I've never seen anything like this.
He's damn good, and it seems like he has an extra focus on pitching. I saw him pitch with the Angels and hit with the Angels, and it seemed like hitting was what he was trying to prove. Maybe because guys like John Smoltz would come out and said, "Oh, he should be a pitcher only."
Outspoken with Dan Sileo, only on SportsGrid.
Shocking reality, I think, for college basketball. Certainly the purists, to see a legendary school struggle to land a current college heavyweight. But this is the new world order. Mike Malone is either going to be the greatest hire in modern college basketball history, or North Carolina is going to be conducting another incredibly expensive coaching search in the next couple of seasons.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
All right, folks, journalism's in trouble. It took a big hit this week. This Diana Rossini investigation into her practices and how she's getting information has now benched her and suspended her basically from The Athletic / the New York Times. I mean, look, I think Diana Rossini is one of the best NFL reporters there is in the country, and she's the preeminent woman when it comes to covering the National Football League. I don't have a problem with her work. I think she is a quality writer. I love her work, actually. And I think she's a quality broadcaster along with being a quality journalist. I mean, look at her work. It's impeccable. And she is one of the preeminent people. However, when you start to see photos like this, and you start to see things and storylines coming out that cozying up with an NFL head coach, and the NFL and the teams and the league that she covers, you start to wonder again how you get your information. You got to understand something here. In today's world of media, we are headline readers. We are video clips. We don't read content. No longer do we have journalism where you have the 3 sources where you are going to put a story together. Hey, Journalism 101, one of the things that you had to know was that you had 3 sources. You followed up on those 3 sources, and you created a story. And the other thing of journalism that people always knew when you're being taught journalism is never become part of the story. Well, all things like that collided in this story this week, which dominated social media. And again, as I said, has sidelined her. In an era right now where the American public does not believe in the media, you could talk about whether or not, political party here, political party there. Look, what's under all of that is that people don't trust the media today. They don't believe what they're reading on the internet. We have the world of AI today. Nobody believes what's really being put out any longer. Look, I tell people this all the time. I'm not a journalist, and nor do I ever claim to have been a journalist. Went to journalism school at the University of Miami, but for me, I'm not a journalist. I'm an opinionist. I give you my opinions. I'm not fair and balanced. I have opinions on topics. Journalists today, unfortunately, believe they're journalists and giving you fair and balanced coverage, but they don't. They do not. And quite frankly, they're more op-ed people today. Now, I don't know, there's a place for that in today's journalism world. But when you hide behind the fact that I'm a journalist and you keep saying that, you're not a journalist. when you have an opinion and you're putting out saying that you're fair and balanced. Listen, journalism did take a hit this week, and so did females in the world of journalism. Diana Rossini, you can go down the list, as I said before, with Rachel Nichols or Joy Taylor. Look at what happened to their careers. Women have to do it better, unfortunately. And what I mean by this is you've got to follow the practices because you're going to be held to a different standard, not a higher standard, a different standard. When you're a woman, a minority that's involved in sports broadcasting, I've said this before, we need more women in sports broadcasting. We need more minorities in sports talk radio. We have to have it just to be able to have fair and balance. We don't have enough women. We don't have enough minorities in sports broadcasting. And I've always have said this. You know, this is a white dominant profession. We need more of it for us to be able to go forward again and create more views. Now, at the end of the day here, this has been a bad look this week for journalism, and it's in trouble because we read headlines. We watch clips. No longer are we content readers. We're more headline readers. We got attention spans of gnats. The story doesn't interest us off the headline, we're not reading it. If the story doesn't move the needle, and there's no consequences for stories when these people get this stuff wrong. We see this all the time with stories in the past. The Duke lacrosse case. That story was a sensationalized story. Turned out not one bit of it was true. And was there any consequences? Of course not. Journalism, since that Duke lacrosse case, in my opinion, has taken a massive hit because there's no consequences when things are wrong. We're more headline readers, as we said. And so when you're looking today at fair and balance, you're not getting fair and balanced any longer. You're getting more people talking more about, again, op-ed. Here's my opinion. There's places for that. But at the end of the day, hey, man, if you can't trust what you're reading any longer, do your homework yourselves. I know it's more difficult today, especially with AI going on. But, man, I got to tell you, what an absolute hit between the eyes this week when it came to journalism in this Diana Rossini, Mike Vrabel story. Just absolutely what's to come next. And this is a New York Times story, too. What did the Times do? Are they going to bend and end up firing her because of her practices? We shall see what happens with this story. All right. Rohit Panaya, I got to talk some UFC with him. How you doing? We'll do that next. Top hour 2. Keep it here on SportsGrid.
The process is closed. Let's call it out for this, right? And is it their fault? You could argue, they've been just besieged at Embiid, but it just continues, Kevin, right? As soon as he's like, don't worry about my health, and then here we are, right? I would have traded him a couple of years ago. I would have gotten ahead of the curve, Kevin.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
For those people who use YouTube, there's a new feature that is powered by AI. And what is this exactly, Simon?
So let's say you're watching Yankees highlights, and you can say, YouTube, when is the next game at Yankee Stadium? You see that information on the screen. How much is the cost? What seats are available? You see that information on the screen. All right, call the Yankee Stadium box office. I want to make a reservation for 2 tickets.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Am I going overboard when I'm saying that? I've never seen anything like this.
He's damn good, and it seems like he has an extra focus on pitching. I saw him pitch with the Angels and hit with the Angels, and it seemed like hitting was what he was trying to prove. Maybe because guys like John Smoltz would come out and said, "Oh, he should be a pitcher only."
Outspoken with Dan Sileo, only on SportsGrid.
Shocking reality, I think, for college basketball. Certainly the purists, to see a legendary school struggle to land a current college heavyweight. But this is the new world order. Mike Malone is either going to be the greatest hire in modern college basketball history, or North Carolina is going to be conducting another incredibly expensive coaching search in the next couple of seasons.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Man, we've got so much to get to with Rohit Panaya here, and appreciate everybody coming aboard here for hour number 2 here. Before we get into UFC 327, what'd you make of the title game this past Monday with Michigan holding off UConn?
Yeah, I mean, you look at the spread in the end. The Huskies end up covering by I think half a point or a point, depending on what book you get it at. But all things considered, I mean, they were almost lucky to be in the game because Michigan just shot horrifically. I mean, this was a team that entered having shot like 45% from 3-point range of the tournament, and they went like 2 for 15 from deep in that game. They also gave up 21 offensive rebounds, just insane. I mean, the Huskies had so many second chances, and they still lost by 6 points. It could have easily been 8 points too. At the end of the game there, we had, what's his name? Roddy Gale, I think, just threw the ball down to the other end of the court, right? If he had just held on to it, he would have probably been fouled and would have had 2 free throw attempts. So, all things considered, UConn and UConn bettors were, I think, a little bit lucky to win on that ATS bet because Michigan was clearly the best team in the country all season.
Let me ask you about the Big Ten. So they've won 4 straight national championships in college football. They just do the double tuck here by getting the women's championship with UCLA and also Michigan. What's making the Big Ten right now? You know what people in the Southeastern Conference are saying? Well, now the money's on the table. Before the money was under the table.
Yeah.
Now the money's on the table. And is that part of this here now where, guess what, where everything is fair now and you're starting to see that? Do you subscribe to that, Ron?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's certainly a part of it because now that money's out in the open, it's not just boosters anymore. It's not just some of those schools that have that money. Maybe some. I'm not going to name names because I don't know for sure. But I mean, there was always talk that schools like Auburn, schools like Alabama had kind of that booster money behind them. But there's just a lot more schools now that can put out that money. I also just think it's a matter of physicality. I mean, you look at the SEC in college basketball; they're a finesse conference. Big Ten is physical. Right now, the Big Ten has 18 schools as well. And you're also battle tested because you've got a lot of those Big Ten schools. You've got 3 schools on the West Coast. So you've got these schools that are used to traveling long distances, throughout the season. So there's a lot of reasons why I think the Big Ten had a lot of success this year. And money's definitely one of them.
Rohit, let's go over to UFC 327. The Miami card. What'd you make of the Miami card?
Obviously a couple fights were extremely disappointing. The Reyes-Walker one being one of them. But for the most part, I thought it was a great card. The last 3 fights in the card were all fantastic. Once again, we see underdogs performing well in the on the main card, in the main event especially. Another underdog win there. I mean, he was a short underdog. I think he was plus 100, Olberg, entering that fight. But he ends up winning there as well. Obviously, not exactly how you want the final fight on the card to go with, an injury and then the other guy kind of, not exploiting that injury, kind of laying off a little bit and then getting caught. So always a little bit of controversy in these UFC cards. But for the most part, I thought it was a great card and I thought we got some great finishes out of it.
What fight did you like the most?
I think it would have to be Hackett Blades. I think that was a big one for me going into it because, you have this guy who's been a long-term contender at heavyweight, and then you've got this up-and-coming young guy who's talking a lot of trash, kind of making himself into a character, and it was kind of one of those breakthrough fights. You could see Hackett just getting absolutely starched maybe, if he, this is a big step up in competition for him, but he really stepped up. He showed he deserves to be on that level. And at the same time, I think we also saw Blades show that he's not willing to just be, one of those, gatekeepers who's going to get knocked out by the young up and coming guys. He showed a lot of heart. He ate a lot of punches, but just the sheer volume of significant strikes in that fight. I don't know if I've ever seen that at heavyweight. They were just, teeing off on each other for 15 minutes. Fantastic fight. And that was, perfect to come on after that Reyes-Walker fight, which was insanely boring. And then all of a sudden you get a just absolute battle between 2 heavyweights. And I think it honestly raises both of their stocks.
So UFC Freedom Fight 250 at the White House. How's that card shaping up?
It's I know some people don't love like some of the matchups there and they thought it was going to be a little bit better maybe, but I think on the whole, I think you have to be kind of happy with what you're getting. It remains to be seen kind of how the entire card is going to fill out, but I think the main fights on there should be fun. I think we've got some good matchups, and I also like the fact that they haven't painted themselves into a corner by, having, all Americans on there. You know what I mean? Because I think some people were like, oh, well, there's a lot of matchups with non-American fighters on there. And I was like, you know what? They're just getting some of the best fighters they can for any given fight. I think the O'Malley matchup might be the only one that I really was scratching my head about. But for the most part, I think it's a pretty good card. I just think our expectations were so much higher because it's been hyped so much.
All right, so we're going to switch it over now to the NFL here. We're going to punt it there. The NFL draft, do you agree that this draft is now shaping up to be a trade down draft? I'm hearing a lot of people talking about wanting to trade down. Is that how you see this draft?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, when you look at like kind of the top players between, 5 and 20, I don't think there's a ton differentiating them. And I think it's very interesting because you look at some of the higher end talents in this draft. If I was just saying, positions be damned, who are the best guys in this draft? I would probably say, would probably say Jeremiah Love, Sonny Styles, guys like that. But linebackers, running backs, they're not usually worth these top 5 picks. And then you've got other guys that really kind of fall anywhere from 5 to 20, depending on whether or not, teams like their fit. There's a lot of high-end tackles in this draft, but some say they're not left tackles. Guys like Mauioga, Fano, people say they don't have the length to be a left tackle in the NFL. But if you like them, you like what you see on tape. I mean, those guys are, top 10 quality picks. So I think there's a lot of guys that really could go anywhere from 5 to 20, depending on team fit, team need, and what, how their scouts kind of differentiate those guys. So I think it really does come down to value. And I think you're going to see a lot of teams move up and move down to kind of go after the guys they're targeting.
Ro, help me here with this with Ty Simpson. I watched him a year ago, and I saw one game, and I really saw the Oklahoma game there in Norman. Other than that, I really didn't see anything special. They got destroyed in the Rose Bowl by Indiana, and they even benched the guy. And all of a sudden now, he's a first-round guy. I mean, obviously, it's the position. Obviously, there's a need at the position. Even when I look at Fernando Mendoza, I see probably a third-round talent, but he's probably going to go number 1 overall to the Raiders here. I mean, is this just really the need at the position? And the position is such a coveted job for you to be able to find one of these quarterbacks that no matter what the talent level is, it seems to these guys, they're going in the first round. Do you think Ty Simpson goes in the first round too?
I do think so. And I think, it's probably the bottom half of the first round, but I think just because of that positional value, I think he's going to always go there. You pointed out a few things, but I do think that in his, on his pro day, I think he did impress a lot of scouts with his arm strength. I think it is a little bit more, he's got a little bit more zip on his throws than I think people give him credit for. He's obviously processes his reads pretty well, but yeah, he's been very inconsistent, and you got to see that, he's around such high level talent. You kind of expected a little bit more from him maybe down the stretch. But yeah, I mean, just because of how much value the quarterback position brings and the fact that there's not that many high tier quarterbacks in this draft, I think someone's going to reach on him probably in the back half of the first round. And I wouldn't be surprised if it's one of those quarterback hungry teams at the top of the draft trading up from the top of the second.
Is there a guy in this draft that you love? Like for me, it's Sonny Styles. I mean, I saw this guy at the combines, man. Holy cow, 4'3", 6'5", 250 pounds. And then when you match his tape up, too, because Mario Cristobal from Miami, obviously the Canes played against him. He said this guy was all over the field. Maybe not the best run support guy, but he's so versatile in learning the position. He was a safety initially when he went to Columbus. That's kind of my favorite guy. Do you have a guy in this draft that you like?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, him and Love, I think, are, two of the best, throwing out positions. Caleb Love, Jeremiah Love, and Caleb, I think, are, the 3 best overall prospects in this draft. And it just comes down to positional value and how teams, think how much value can you put on a safety? How much value can you put on a linebacker today's NFL? But I love those guys. I also love Mansour Delane. I think if you just look at a shutdown corner, the traits he brings, he's going to be starting from day one, and he's going to be fantastic. You need high-end cornerbacks in the NFL nowadays. So I could see even Mansour Delane going close to the top 5.
We'll continue more of our conversation. Don't forget our great friends at Morgan & Morgan, the number 1 injury law firm in all of America, folks. I tell you about the family in Pennsylvania that was initially offered $650K. They got nearly $30 million in settlement. Or the family in Florida that was offered $350K. They got nearly $12 million in settlement. Go to forthepeople.com/big sales or pound law 529. That's forthepeople.com/big sales or pound law 529. And do me a favor. You tell them Big Sills sent you. We're going to talk a little more NFL. We're also going to bounce the basketball with our friend at the Pro League with Rohit Panaya. We'll do that next. You keep it right here on SportsGrid.
The process is closed. Let's call it out for what it is, right? And is it their fault? You could, they've been just besieged at Embiid, but it just continues, Kevin, right? As soon as he's like, don't worry about my health, and then here we are, right? I would have traded him a couple of years ago. I would have gotten ahead of the curve, Kevin.
Game time decisions only on SportsGrid.
For those people who use YouTube, there's a new feature that is powered by AI. And what is this exactly, Simon?
So let's say you're watching Yankees highlights, and you can say, YouTube, when is the next game at Yankee Stadium? You see that information on the screen. How much is the cost? What seats are available? You see that information on the screen. All right, call the Yankee Stadium box office. I want to make a reservation for 2 tickets.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Am I going overboard when I'm saying that? I've never seen anything like this.
He's damn good, and it seems like he has an extra focus on pitching. I saw him pitch with the Angels and hit with the Angels, and it seemed like hitting was what he was trying to prove. Maybe because guys like John Smoltz would come out and said, "Oh, he should be a pitcher only."
Outspoken with Dan Sileo, only on SportsGrid.
Shocking reality, I think, for college basketball. Certainly the purists to see a legendary school struggle to land a current college heavyweight. But this is the new world order. Mike Malone is either going to be the greatest hire in modern college basketball history, or North Carolina is going to be conducting another incredibly expensive coaching search in the next couple of seasons.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
More with our friend Rohit Panaya here. We're going to talk a little more on the NFL draft here. You know, in the timeout, you brought something great up here, and that was versatility. You think more teams today, because of the way defenses are and the way the game is played in space, you think most of these defensive coordinators now are looking for versatility? We were talking about Bailey. We were talking about a guy like maybe even a Ruben Bain that could play inside, outside. He could play all the positions on the defensive front. Do you think that's where teams are really starting to look? Arvell Reese is another guy you were talking about also. Is that where you think teams are going now? They're looking for more versatility when it comes to defensive players.
You know, I think that's what there's very small margins between, the top guys in the draft. And if you offer positional versatility, that's kind of another box you can tick for a lot of these coordinators, because they need those kind of Swiss Army knives to match up with what a lot of the offenses are doing. You see offenses going with a lot of 3 wide receiver sets as their base. You see them running a lot of running backs as, receivers out of the backfield. So you need to have kind of that positional versatility to match up against it. And having one guy can really change a defense. So the guys you mentioned, I think Caleb Downs is another big name, because, we've seen what Kyle Hamilton can do for the Ravens and how they use him kind of in the box, in coverage deep, sometimes even lining up at cornerback. So yeah, I think positional versatility definitely matters at some of those positions, and, give some of those guys a little bit of extra value where they normally wouldn't have it. Someone like Dylan Thieneman, who might just be seen as a safety, 5-10 years ago, but now he's a guy you can move around a little bit.
Do you think that this is becoming more of a trend too because of nil in transfer portal? The last 3 drafts, how about this, Rohit? 94 players taken in the first round. There's only 3 players that have been non-Power 5. Do you think that because of the way teams are now and kids now transfer, if you're not going to stay at a smaller non-Power 5, if you're a quality player, you're going to go to the Big Ten or you're going to go to the Southeastern Conference. Is that now kind of limiting the failures now for some of these general managers? Because if you're playing against the best competition, you're getting the best coaching, Big Ten, Big 12, Southeastern Conference, maybe even the ACC, you're not going to really see any of these non-Power 5 kids. I think Quinyon Mitchell was the last guy that was drafted that was non-Power 5. Do you think that's going to become a trend now? And it's going to create less misses now in the first round?
I'm not sure if it's going to relate to fewer misses, but I think it is certainly a trend that's going to continue in just terms of these Power 5 conferences have definitely separated in terms of the talent they have. When you have, the better players at smaller schools, they're going to be transferring to those power conferences before they come into the league. And I think that's going to be a big tell. And I think the other big tell is that we have, a lot of these, power conference schools, the bigger names, the Clemsons, the Georgias, et cetera, they have so much depth. they've got guys coming off the bench who are barely playing, who are projecting to be, third, fourth round guys who, if they were playing on a smaller school, might be stars. But just because they're on stacked teams, we don't see them as much. But the scouts know who they are. They're looking at the tape. They're taking into account those guys are playing fewer plays, and they're not necessarily looking at the overall stats. So us at home, we might not notice who some of these guys are, but some of these depth guys on loaded programs are absolutely NFL prospects as well.
Absolutely, no question. Guys are not going to sit behind and stay there any longer here. So let me go over here now to the NBA. I opened the show with this here. Over 160 players. You could have filled 11 rosters. A third of the league did not show up with illness or some type of injury this past Friday. I mean, the NBA right now, boy, if the players don't want to be ambassadors to their sport, this can't be a good sign for Adam Silver.
Yeah, I mean, it's honestly, it's kind of embarrassing. We saw that Thunder game, against the Nuggets, and it was kind of a sin because it wasn't even like, except for Lou Dort, but it wasn't really even the Thunder's backups. It was the backups to their backups, right? They had only 8 guys on the roster, 3 guys on 2-way contracts. The Nuggets were the far better team because they had actual backups. Like guys like Valanciunas and Tim Hardaway were the best players on the floor. And it's kind of a sin because if you're a fan, you're paying a lot of money to see some of these games. On paper, it could have been phenomenal. Nuggets last 2 games of the season, they get to play the Thunder, they get to play the Spurs. On paper, seems amazing, but instead they're going to be playing absolute terrible rosters for both of those teams. They're going to be also gift-wrapped wins for both of those games, which kind of sucks if you're the Lakers or you're the Rockets, because all of a sudden, you're trying to cash up to this team, but nobody's trying against them. So it's not a good product, I don't think, for anybody. I understand why teams are doing it to stay healthy, but at some point, I think, Adam Silver has to step in and come up with some sort of way to, get teams at least, maybe rest your superstar or something, but resting an entire starting lineup and, multiple bench guys, that's not cool.
Absolutely. So the Lakers look like they're surging. Can they do anything in the Western Conference right now? They're starting to play better basketball, or do you think it's fool's gold right now?
I do think it's fool's gold. I think LeBron's really stepped up, but I think it's really hard for them with the injuries that they have right now to compete with some of the higher end teams there. I still don't think they're, necessarily as tough or as physical defensively to compete with some of those top teams too. And once it comes down to a 7-game series, you can never want to count out LeBron. They do have some talent if some of those guys come back, but it's going to be really tough for them, especially the early going. And I think there's a lot of things that could go wrong for this team. Especially depending on what their first round matchup is, because some of those teams in the Western Conference, I think, are a really, really tough matchup for them.
What do you make of JJ Redick as a coach, the job that he's done there with the Lakers? Give me your takeaway and what you think the job that he's done.
For the most part, I think it's good. I mean, what is being an NBA coach now, right? It's mostly managing personalities, especially for some of these teams. And I think as, a former player coach, he knows how to relate to his players. He knows how to get the most out of those stars. So I think from that standpoint, you've got to love him. As far as his X's and O's goes, maybe not so much, but I really don't know if that's even, a major part of what NBA coaching is about nowadays. But depending on what I've seen so far, I like what he brings to the team. And I think, depending on how long he stays in the Lakers, I think he's going to be a long-term coach in the league, and I think he's going to be a guy that players want to play for.
Real quick here, is Joel Embiid done in Philadelphia? Do you think we've seen the best of Joel Embiid?
Yeah, I think we touched on this a few weeks ago as well, and I think it's sad to say, but I think we saw the best of him a few years ago. He's not, he's never going to be able to play, completely healthy. He's never going to have that hop that he used to, that athleticism. Still a pretty good player. When he's somewhat healthy, he can make a difference, but he's not your franchise guy that you can hang your hat on and expect on to carry you in a series. And he's, it's too bad because at one point it looked like that Embiid Joker rivalry was going to be, one for the ages. But sadly, I don't think we'll ever see him at that peak again.
Absolutely. The ball rimmed out in that Toronto Raptors series. We've never really seen Joel Embiid ever since then. Hey, 20 seconds. OKC's title to lose?
I think so. Right now you're getting OKC versus the field. And I think the field is like plus 150 or something. So it's pretty crazy, but I think it is OKC's to lose as long as no one gets hurt. Crazy stat I saw the other day. If you take out a 2-month period, there was a 2-month period where they went 21-14. You take out that 2-month period and they went like something like 45-3 the rest of the season. So definitely the team to beat, and they have it all as long as they're healthy.
Thank you, Rowett. We'll talk Tiger and Phil next here on SportsGrid.
Not all these kids, But the majority of these kids in the top 10 have had things handed to them since they're in 3rd grade because they're special athletically. And the fact that they get humbled a little bit, I'm here for the humbling. I've been humbled. I like when other people get humbled.
But you were humbled later. Yeah. You weren't humbled at 22 in front of the world. No. You were a grown-ass man.
The Craig Carton Show. Only on SportsGrid.
I got to tell you, Kansas basketball the last 3 months, if I was the number 1 player in the country, I'd cross them off my list. Bill Self did not do Darren Peterson any favors. And now Badunga's going to stay in college but leave Lawrence? I'm red flags, in my opinion, Gabe, around the Jayhawks.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Miami today laying 17.5. Miami wins, get a load of this, 152. When you hear 152, I don't care if you're laying 100. You're thinking you're winning that bet, right? They win 152 to 136. They only win by 16. Washington get the backdoor cover.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
You're going to invest. Find somebody else in the market right now, like J.J. Weatherholt or someone else, because this is the worst time, I think, to buy a guy like Griffin.
You can bring up Polymarket right now. Go to the NL Rookie of the Year page. It is a roller coaster of everybody changing from favorite to not favorite to favorite to not favorite. Look at that. It's like a earthquake happening, Craig, and the Ricky scale is going nuts.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
You know, the Masters is really one of the great American sporting events that we have in this country. And make no mistake about it, today, Championship Sunday, we're going to see such drama out there at Augusta National. And for the first time since 1994, there's no Phil Mickelson or Tiger Woods that will be looping around that legendary golf course. Tiger is in Zurich getting treatment right now and asking for privacy as he's going through his issues right now. Well, I'll say this to you about not having Tiger Field. Does anybody miss him? You know, it's got to a point now where golf is now moving forward without Tiger and without Phil, just like every sport does. We move forward without Tom Brady, or we move forward without a Peyton Manning or an Eli Manning or some of the legendary quarterbacks we've seen like Dan Marino or Joe Montana in the past. When you've got sporting events and sports like the Super Bowl of golf, which is today, the Masters, you're moving on without these legendary guys. As for Tiger Woods, once again, you know, we had Rocco Mediate on yesterday, and Rocco was like, hey, let the guy get rehab. Let the guy get an opportunity. It was a different perspective on how he looked at Tiger Woods' issues. I say this to you here. Again, Tiger needs to worry about Tiger Woods right now. Tiger Woods needs to worry about his future as a person in society. Tiger's no longer the guy that patrolled the golf courses and dominated the sports scene and dominated professional golf. He's not that guy any longer. Tiger's got to worry about, again, being the man that's going to be a father to his kids. Phil Mickelson, on the other hand, he's gone into the live world. Took that big salary from the live folks and the Saudi folks, and he's living the great life too. These guys have moved on from Augusta National. They're no longer part, but they'll always be part of the history, but they're no longer part of the landscape of how we're looking at the PGA today. We're looking at Scotty Scheffler. We're looking at Rory McIlroy. We're looking at all those guys and how they've now taken the baton the same way that Phil and Tiger took the baton from Jack and Arnold. The sport will move on without these legendary names. Now, again, we'd love to see them one day become maybe potential official starters for the Augusta National. But the sport moves on. We got high drama today. I can't wait for Championship Sunday. I don't know who wins the Masters. And you know what's funny is that this sporting event has now become, as I've said, one of the truly must-see television events. Rory McIlroy dinking it at 16 and putting it in the water, creating the drama that we needed. He was running away with the golf tournament, and the 36 holes that he had, all of a sudden people were like, my goodness, he's just going to run away with it and get himself back-to-back championships and have another green jacket. Rory even said it after the match. He's like, listen, this is going to come down to the last couple shots of this golf course on who ends up winning the green jacket. No Tiger and Phil. Not really missed. You love seeing those guys because they're signature parts of the golf and they're signature parts of that golf tournament. You know, one of the cool things about the Augusta National and golf is that you can connect the present with the past because many of the former champions get an opportunity to play in this great event. We saw Jose Maria Lozabal in the opening round. He was on the leaderboard. Many of those great legendary players, you rarely see this in any other sport. You don't see a Dr. J playing with the modern day guys. Golf gives you this aspect where you can see the past history meshing with the new guys and the new history being made there at Augusta. No Tiger and Phil. First time since 1994. And really, I don't believe anybody's missing it. This will always be one of America's greatest sporting events. And it will always be an opportunity for us Americans to sit back and consume this great content when it comes to the Masters. I think this week the Masters has done a spectacular job at presenting it in all ways they could. I mean, I never really watched the par 3 event. I watched that on Wednesday. Record ratings this week for the Masters and for the par 3. Thursday and Friday rounds were over the top when it came to television ratings. This is one of those events that doesn't really need the superstar names to really push their sport. Look at the NBA. We just got through talking about the NBA and their issues that they have in promoting their sport. Make no mistake about it, the Masters will give us great drama today. I can't wait to see who puts on that green jacket in Butler Cabin. I can't wait to see the drama on what's going to unfold for us. So again, no Tiger and Phil. Golf is moving on, just like they did with Jack and Arnold. We're seeing that now with the new baton with Scotty Scheffler and also with Rory McIlroy. I got Scotty Scheffler. I think Scotty Scheffler is right now coming up the rear end, and I think he's looking right now at putting himself in position to win himself another green jacket and get him an opportunity to win himself a green jacket. We're going to talk and bounce of basketball with our friend Rick Barry. That's next right here on SportsGrid.
Not all these kids, but the majority of these kids in the top 10 have had things handed to them since they're in 3rd grade because they're special athletically. And the fact that they get humbled a little bit, I'm here for the humbling. I've been humbled. I like when other people get humbled.
But you were humbled later. Yeah. You weren't humbled at 22 in front of the world. No. You were a grown-ass man.
The Craig Carton Show. Only on SportsGrid.
I got to tell you, Kansas basketball the last 3 months, if I was the number 1 player in the country, I'd cross them off my list. Bill Self did not do Darren Peterson any favors. And now Badunga's going to stay in college but leave Lawrence? I'm red flags, in my opinion, Gabe, around the Jayhawks.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Miami today laying 17.5. Miami wins, get a load of this, 152. When you hear 152, I don't care if you're laying 100. You're thinking you're winning that bet, right? They win 152 to 136. They only win by 16. Washington get the backdoor cover.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
You're going to invest. Find somebody else in the market right now, like JJ Weatherholt or someone else, because this is the worst time, I think, to buy a guy like Griffin.
You can bring up Polymarket right now. Go to the NL Rookie of the Year page. It is a roller coaster of everybody changing from favorite to not favorite to favorite to not favorite. Look at that. It's like a earthquake happening, Craig, and the Ricky scale is going nuts.
Pro Baseball Today, only on SportsGrid.
All right, we're going to talk to legendary NBAer Rick Barry here, and I just learned something here, and I love Paul D. So Paul D. was the former athletic director at the University of Miami, and he said that basically Rick Barry just said this, that he just gave him a token interview. Wait a minute, Rick, you would have been a great head coach to start the basketball program back up
We
again.
use the whole show. We should do it at another time when you have more time. Yeah, I wanted to be the coach. I would have taken the job. I had guys lined up, all former NBA players, to do it, and it was a waste of my time and his time. It was ridiculous. Anyway, it's a long story.
All right, well, then let's go to this story here, and I can't wait for your takeaway. So, Rick, over 168 players missed Friday's game. That could have filled 11 rosters. Rick, that's a third of the league. Didn't show up to work for either injuries or illness. Your takeaway on that?
Bullshit, total bullshit. It's just unbelievable what's happening. And they always have this thing about, not wanting to throw games and do stuff. And they come up with resting. Hey, it's one thing to say you're going to rest them. They always bring this up. The NFL, they try to rest and do stuff. Well, the NFL, you have a lot more chance to get injured and stuff in an NFL game. And I can understand that, especially the quarterback. And I can see it. I can still see if it's a situation where you're locked in, it doesn't have anything to do with your standings or anything, and you want to rest some of your guys. I have no issue with that, other than the fact that if you're playing on the road and you're going to rest your star players, how fair is that to the people who paid all this money to get season tickets to watch their team play, and you only have this one team from one conference coming in to play at your place? Generally, that's not the case, and they don't get to see him play because he's getting load management and he's getting rested. That's not right. It's not fair to the fans.
Rick, is there anything you can do to fix this? I mean, because as you just said,
I got the answer to it, but it's never happened. I've said this decades ago. Okay, Dan, decades ago. All professional team sports blew it by not putting money on the line for every game an athlete plays. Every game that you play, if you're a professional athlete, there should be money involved. If you win, you get the money. If you don't win, you don't get the money. You have a guaranteed contract. You determine what that's going to be for the really top players. Then you negotiate, and here's where an agent comes in. How many games realistically can this team win? Let's just say 50, for example. We'll take Steph Curry, one of my favorite players. So Steph is making $50-something million a year. So you're going to guarantee Steph $5 million. That's what he gets. And he gets guaranteed, the top guys get $5 million, which to me is insane anyway. Now, let's say the Warriors should be able to win 50 games and you could become an agreement. Steph Curry would get $1 million for every win. So he now makes $55 million, which he's guaranteed now under the contract, right? But they have to win the games. So every game that Steph plays and they win, he's getting an extra $1 million. Somebody else might have a guaranteed contract only for $500,000 and he gets $50,000 a win. But every player has money on the line for every game played. You come down to the last game of the season, do you think some guys are going to not want to play if there's all that money on the line? It'll solve the issue.
Rick, how did it get here? I mean, did money really corrupt the sport here? I mean, when you guys played, it was for the Rick. I can tell you this, and I've known you all these years, man. If you were making today's money, that wouldn't deter you not to play because you had a love of the game. How did this become institutionalized, where players now are looking with this load management? How did it get here from those eras of you guys and the guys standing on your guys' shoulders right now, where this league is and the kind of money that they're making? How did it get here?
Well, it did a 180. First of all, the owners were taking advantage of the players by the kind of money they were paying them. They were making so much money, and then they tried to work that out. But then the owners lost their minds. They created Frankenstein, and he turned on them. I mean, now they're giving so much power to the players. It doesn't make any sense. Why would you want to do that? You should come to some mutual agreement. They kind of did as far as having salary caps and things of that nature. But why they wanted to spend that much money for the players is nuts. Now they've given them so much power. There's no way the owners could ever put this in. This should have been put in and negotiated decades ago. Can you imagine every football game, every hockey game, every soccer game, every basketball game being played on a professional level, that every player has money on the line? It would be like the seventh game of the playoffs every time they stepped onto the court. Do you think a guy gets hurt that he's going to take forever to rehab? He's going to bust his hump to get back, because why? If that team's losing games, it's costing him millions of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars. There's just a problem with professional sports having guaranteed contracts that you get paid whether you play like crap or not, or you give a damn or not.
Rick, do you like the NBA players of today? Do you think, again, when you look at them representing your league, what do you make of them today? I mean, do you like the way they rep the league?
Well, I don't like it if a guy doesn't behave himself off the court. I mean, I love some of the things a lot of these guys are doing with their foundations and charities, helping out those people less fortunate. I have great respect for the guys that do that. What I don't like is the way that they are allowing the game to be played. And I think that goes back to the league itself. I made a big stink about it. Somebody just brought something up that happened years ago, showing me this thing about me talking about, hey, just call the game according to the rule book. Stop the travel, stop the carrying, stop all the nutty stuff that's going on, all this thing with the Euro step and all this thing. And you know, the guys doing, you know, the sets. I just drives me crazy. It really absolutely drives me nuts to have to watch games and see guys traveling and seeing them doing the same, the gather step and all this other things. I mean, I just think, how in the hell would someone, they couldn't guard me when I couldn't carry the ball. If I could carry the ball and get the extra step, a guy would have no chance whatsoever of guarding me. I mean, none. It's just not fun for me to watch, because I was taught how to play the game according to what the rule book is. And the rule book hasn't changed. And I think basketball is getting ruined on all levels. NIL has ruined college sports and basketball. The championship team had 5 guys out of the pool this year. 5 guys transferred to go to play. The money being paid to these guys in college, sure, I think every athlete in college should get some kind of money for playing on a team, so he has a few bucks to go out here and there. That makes some sense, but not the kind of money they're paying him now. It's absurd, absolutely absurd. And what's happened, I thought I was watching NBA playoff games when I was watching the women's final and the men's final. They are allowing the game to become so overtly physical. And why they want this to happen in this sport is beyond my comprehension. And I had many talks with David Stern, God rest his soul, the NBA commissioner, and then even Adam Silver. Why do you want to let the game be so physical? That's an advantage for the less skilled player, Dad. It doesn't take talent, skill, and ability to grab and hold and shove and push. 2 guys hit each other. They both hit the court. And there's not even a foul call. It's got to be a charge or a block. It gives the advantage to the skilled player. And I just saw a stat. The overwhelming majority of players, statistics, go down in the playoffs because the game is to be allowed to become more physical. And you really have to elevate your game in the playoffs. And I looked at a lot of the stats. There's so many guys whose stats are down, come shooting percentage and things of that nature, because of the physicality of the game. And it's happening in all levels of the sports. It's from the college level on up. And it's not fun for me to watch, because I know, as a player, I know it doesn't take much to throw me off on a shot if somebody's able to give me a little push and a little shove. And it's just not fun to play a game like that. I didn't sign up to wrestle. I didn't sign up to play football. I signed up to play basketball. And basketball is becoming so physical that I don't enjoy it. I always used to ask the officials in the playoffs, can you guys show me the new rule book? I mean, we don't have a new rule book. And then you hear even the players say, well, it's playoff basketball. Well, no, it's playoff basketball, which means it's more important, but the rules shouldn't change. Yeah.
So Rick, in 30 seconds here, we're going to continue our conversation, obviously, too, here. But so you're saying the game is less skilled, Rick, today than it was when you played?
No, it's worse. The guys are so incredibly skilled. That's the thing that's even more scary about it. They're so incredibly skilled, and you're taking away from the fans to be able to watch these guys do these amazing things that they do because of the physicality that's being allowed.
Man, I'll tell you what. Yeah, right now, the NBA with this 11 rosters could have been filled with players not playing on Friday. I mean, as Rick said, one of the most expensive tickets in all of sports. And you show up to a game and your favorite basketball player is not there for your kid to go watch a basketball game. I don't get it. We're going to continue more of our conversation with Rick Barry next, right here on SportsGrid.
I know you didn't. Talk.
I'm innocent.
Got the wrong guy. It wasn't me. I didn't do anything. Okay, it was me. I did it.
Bringing an owl to an interrogation? That's a power move.
Every time.
Yeah. Hiring America's largest injury law firm for your injury? That's also a power move. Morgan & Morgan, America's largest injury law firm.
How much do you think tanking is hurting the NBA right now, too? And what we're seeing, like we saw with that Jazz and Orlando game a week ago, how much do you think that's hurting the game?
I can't wait until professional sports in the United States adopts a European model, especially like a Premier League model, and they start doing relegation. The day you start doing relegation, everything changes. Everything will change.
Outspoken with Dan Sileo, only on SportsGrid.
Well, I ended up adding this since our show started here, Rohit, but his points prop tonight at 20.5 is the same number from the Iowa State game. That's a bit of a mistake, right? When we consider the gap in opponents here. I think Peterson specifically steps up. He needs to. I think he kind of owes this team a great performance.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Class is in session. Today, let's talk about the teaser. A teaser is a multi-leg bet where you shift the point spread in your favor. You get better numbers, but every selection has to win. It doesn't matter what you bet if you don't have the insights. Tune into SportsGrid and get ahead of the class.
I know that Florida lost at home to Auburn, and it's a real thing that happened. So you can't strike it from the record. But if you did, I think Florida's looked like the best team in college basketball for about 2 months. And I think there are a bunch of results that suggest that.
College basketball today, only on SportsGrid.
More with Rick Barry, legendary NBAer right here, Hall of Famer with us here on SportsGrid. Rick, I think you bring something great about, this conversation we had there about you could fill 11 rosters with players not having, out there on the court for fans to see. I mean, a third of the league was not playing on Friday. Rick, it's a way of throwing it also, too, because like you say, I mean, if there's a team that's battling for that final playoff spot, just like we were talking with the NFL, you put your practice squad guys out. What about the other team that's in a line with another team in the league that's trying to make the playoffs? You're going to throw that? I mean, that kind of talks to the integrity of the game, doesn't it, when you're doing this also?
Yeah, it does. But there's so much money involved now. And I can understand why the owners wanted to get to the point of this load management, trying to protect guys and doing stuff. But hey, the guy could get hurt walking across the street or walking to the parking lot after practice. I mean, it's part of what the game is about. And you just have to hope that you can stay healthy. Perfectly honest, I would have a hard time dealing with load management. I signed up to play. The last thing I want to do is sit and watch. Okay. If I'm healthy, I want to play. I don't want to sit and watch. I just have a real issue with that. It's just that I love playing the game. And why would I go take away from, you have a limited career as it is. So why do I want to limit the number of games I can play when I love playing so much? So I just have a real issue with it. It's not something I'm pleased about that they're doing. I understand why they're trying to do it in hopes that they're protecting their guys, keep them healthy. Hey, most of these guys are in their 20s and 30s, and they're in the greatest shape of their life. I mean, I play 40-something minutes a game, but like Steph Curry and SGA. I mean, these guys, they average like 35, 36 minutes a game. It's only like 3/4 of the game they're playing anyway. So I don't understand this thing about, we want to rest them. They got to play more. No, I mean, I'll never accept it. I just never will. It'll never be something I'm happy with. I understand why they do it, but I'm not for it. 100% against it.
Rick, I saw something the other day, and before I knew you were coming on here, I wanted to get your thoughts on. So the Celtics threw up 29 threes Is that good or bad for the game? I mean, when you see a team throw up 29 3-pointers, like you talk about, you know,
29
going up and down the court.
That's nothing. I mean, they shoot 60, 70. It's the statistics. It's all analytical now. Statistics. 80% of the games won are won by the team that outscores the other team in 3-point shooting. 80%. So statistically, you want to be able to do that. It's very difficult to win a game if the other team outscores you from 3-point range. It's just one of the statistics that absolutely is there. It's true. It's not like you're making it up. And so you can't win an NBA championship and be one of the best teams in the NBA if you don't have good 3-point shooters. That's the bottom line. You have to have guys that can make 3-point shots.
I want to play a game with you here. I want to ask you a question here. Final shot. You had to win a game. Steph Curry or Jerry West? Who are you taking?
Steph Curry.
Wow.
Well, because I love Jerry West because 3-point shot is such an integral part of the game. In fact, I pick a team of 4 players that I would want to play with against any other 4, 5 players you want to tell me to play against. I'm playing small forward. Okay, I'm playing the 3. Will Chamberlain is my center. Bill Russell is my power forward. I'm playing 3. I would take, of course, I'm taking Michael Jordan as the 2. And if it's a 3-point game, I take Steph Curry. If it's not a 3-point game, it'd be very difficult and hard pressed between Oscar Robertson or Magic Johnson. But because of the way the game is and trying up tempo and stuff, I would want to go maybe lean more towards Magic because the up tempo and the passing, the way I ran the court and doing stuff, I would probably enjoy a more fast game like this. But it's pretty hard. Oscar is like one of the greatest players. I think people don't even just realize how amazing he was. So that would be the most difficult thing for me would be between those two if there's no 3-point shot. But with a 3-point shot, there's no way I'm not taking Steph Curry.
Is Steph the greatest shooter in NBA history? I didn't say greatest player, Rick. I say greatest shooter.
No, he is. I mean, there's other guys that are right. I mean, Clay is one of the great 3-point shooters. They have some other really good 3-point shooters, but not at the same league of Steph, who can create his own shot, but who also can drive to the basket, can also shoot great free throws. I mean, the guy's incredible. He's one of my favorite players to watch. And the other guy I love watching, and he's one of the greatest anomalies ever, just like Wemby's an anomaly. Never been a guy his size play like he does. Charles Barkley was one. The guy play power forward at his size is the Joker. I mean, you look at the Joker, they say, this guy can't, how the hell does this guy play? I mean, he can't be that good. I mean, but he's unbelievable to watch. The guy there's one word to describe the Joker: efficient. He's one of the most efficient players I've ever seen play the game.
More efficient, Tim Duncan or Joker?
Well, I think Duncan's more of a 4 than a 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the Joker,
where do you think Joker fits in?
I would not have a problem.
Where does he fit in history,
either
Rick?
one of them. Huh?
Where does he fit in history, Joker, in your opinion?
Well, he's one of the top centers ever. No question.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Him against Wilt.
He doesn't have the rebounding totals and like Wilt did as far as a dominating force in that regard. But I mean, all around, I mean, how many guys could do what he does and puts up the stuff and gets to, so many triple doubles that a center gets? I mean, the guy's amazing. He's absolutely amazing. And he's got such an attitude, and it's like he can't wait to get back home. And all I mean, it's like, but I just love watching him play. He and Steph are 2 of my favorite players. I say, geez, another one. I mean, he's very efficient as well. But man, yeah, the Joker and Steph are the guys that I love watching. There's a lot of great players that I enjoy watching. I just don't enjoy it when the teams do too much of the one-on-one. And they don't play the game the way I see the game designed to be played, which is the way the Warriors were able to win so many championships: pass, move, cut, force decisions on the defense to make mistakes, and then you take advantage of those mistakes. It's more fun to watch, more fun to play. And that's the way the game was designed to be played. I mean, not back in the days of James Harden with the Rockets when he would hold the ball for 20 seconds or more. My God, he wouldn't even pass it or anything. And then he can't get a shot. So I would hate to be in it. And all of a sudden he throws you the ball with 2 seconds on the shot clock and you got to jack up a 3-pointer.
All right.
But
so Rick, 30 seconds.
I will say he's gotten better about that. And I don't think he's a selfish player. I just think he was given too much latitude.
30 seconds. Game-winning shot, you or Luka?
But Luka's a great shooter. I wouldn't have any problem if he were there. I mean, I want to be on his team. I mean, I'm happy to take it.
You
But I
or
wasn't a great
Luka?
shooter. No, he's probably a better long distance shooter. Steph's better. There's a bunch of guys better than me. But you want to do something to get the ball. I know that I can create something or get a shot myself. But as far as just a shooter, no, I wouldn't take me.
25 a night. One of the greatest shooters in NBA history. Rick, I
One of the greatest
appreciate you. Love you very much.
Scorers, not
Scores.
shooters.
There
not
you go.
shooters, scorers.
Final thoughts next, right here on SportsGrid.
Not all these kids, but the majority of these kids in the top 10 have had things handed to them since they're in third grade because they're special athletically. And the fact that they get humbled a little bit, I'm here for the humbling. I've been humbled. I like when other people get humbled.
But you were humbled later.
Yeah.
You weren't humbled at 22 in front of the world.
No.
You were a grown-ass man.
The Craig Carton Show. Only on SportsGrid.
I got to tell you, Kansas basketball the last 3 months, if I was the number one player in the country, I'd cross them off my list. Bill Self did not do Darren Peterson any favors. And now Badunga's going to stay in college but leave Lawrence? I'm red flags, in my opinion, Gabe, around the Jayhawks.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Miami today laying 17.5. Miami wins, get a load of this, 152. When you hear 152, I don't care if you're laying 100. You're thinking you're winning that bet, right? They win 152 to 136. They only win by 16. Washington get the backdoor cover.
In-game live. Only on SportsGrid.
You're going to invest. Find somebody else in the market right now, like JJ Weatherholt or someone else, because this is the worst time, I think, to buy a guy like Griffin.
You can bring up Polymarket right now. Go to the NL Rookie of the Year page. It is a roller coaster of everybody changing from favorite to not favorite to favorite to not favorite. Look at that. It's like a earthquake happening, Craig, and the Richter scale is going nuts.
Pro Baseball Today. Only on SportsGrid.
Okay, here we are. Championship Sunday for the Masters. I don't know if this is going to be like the 1986 Masters when Nicklaus on the back nine shoots a 30 and comes back and catches the field and ends up going on and winning the Augusta National and ends up winning a 6th green jacket. That was truly one of the greatest moments in Masters history. Jack Whitaker covering it back then and Pat Summerall covering it. And it was just really, it was a very young, group of CBS reporters that were covering that great. I remember as a kid, I was at the University of Miami, and that just was one of the signature moments I remember, just watching that with Jim Nantz talking about the Masters and how Nicklaus would go on and win that green jacket. Or 2019, when Tiger Woods came back and was able to win his 5th green jacket. One of the most iconic moments was watching Tiger on 18. Coming off of all the situations that he had, nobody thought he would ever win another major championship. He may never win another championship again because of what has happened in recent time here. I'll say this to you, man. These great events, the 97 Masters, when Woods destroyed the field and people were watching, how many times did people during that time when Tiger was bursting onto the scene and he won the Augusta National and people were saying, oh my God, what is this kid doing to the Augusta National? He just destroyed it. 87, Larry Mize chipping in and winning the Masters and beating Greg Norman. This is what this event does. It's truly one of the greatest events in American sports history is the Masters. And again, it's one of the events that we put on our calendar and on our sports calendar each and every single year. We look forward to this event. Again, we got all these events that we look at every year that we want to have appointment setting. The Super Bowl, the World Series, NBA Finals, the national championship in football and the national championship in college basketball. These are the signature events we have, and the Masters is one of those. I would put the U.S. Open also in that conversation, but there's nothing like Championship Sunday at Augusta. You know, the pageantry of the event, Bobby Jones going back to the founder of the club, built the club on a nursery, and this event since 1936 has been one of the signature moments in all of sports. You know, you go back to the day when Jones first initially founded the club, everyone was looking at this as being one of the next major events in American sports, and it's become that. Obviously, Arnold Palmer put it front and center when the television age became, and when Arnold Palmer was starting to win, Arnie's Army, then Jack came. You had a progression of people wanting to watch this event each and every single year because of those iconic figures. Arnold Palmer would go on and win his major championships there at Augusta. Then Nicklaus would follow. Then we had Gary Player. Then we had players that would come in like Nick Faldo. You had Tom Watson, who was winning. These are all things. And again, I'm not the biggest golf fan on the planet, but what I do love is major sporting events. And when you have the backdrop of Augusta, now Augusta obviously has come under fire lately when it comes to, again, how the course and how the club and the history of the club has been presented over the years. But this is one event that truly gives us Americans a great opportunity on Sunday. This thing's going to have iconic ratings. You're talking high ratings, and you're talking about maybe even ratings that are going to break even some Tiger Woods ratings, because this weekend, Rory McIlroy on Saturday ended up dinking it in 16, and now you have Scotty Scheffler. I've got Scotty Scheffler in this. I think he's going to come from behind, and I think he's going to end up winning this event. Rory McIlroy, is he the greatest European golfer in the history of European golf? Will he be that guy to win himself another major championship? You're hearing people say that he is going to go on to win potentially 10 major championships, and that would put him up in the higher echelon of some of the greatest of golfers that have ever played on the PGA Tour. I like Rory. I think Rory brings a lot to the table. I think Rory brings a lot to the sport. The sport is really going through a transformation right now, from the Tiger and Phil we mentioned earlier to where you're seeing now with Scotty Scheffler and Rory. These are going to be the new guns here at Augusta each and every single year. You know, it's a shame that we don't have Phil and Tiger this weekend at Augusta. I'm not thinking too many people are missing this right now because, again, the drama the course creates, the drama the tournament creates, will all come down in the final holes at Augusta. Who wins the green jacket and who goes on to become one of the great ambassadors for Augusta. I'm looking forward to it. I think this is going to be a great championship Sunday. I can't wait to watch and see who puts on that jacket in the Butler Cablin. Make no mistake about it. We are going to get high drama at Augusta. What a great event. Coming off the national championship game on Monday to see this. Folks, we shall see who puts that green jacket on. Till next week. We'll catch you on the flip side.
Not all these kids, but the majority of these kids in the top 10 have had things handed to them since they're in third grade because they're special athletically. And the fact that they get humbled a little bit, I'm here for the humbling. I've been humbled. I like when other people get humbled.
But you were humbled later.
Yeah.
You weren't humbled at 22 in front of the world.
No.
You were a grown-ass man.
The Craig Carton Show. Only on SportsGrid.
I got to tell you, Kansas basketball the last 3 months, if I was the number one player in the country, I'd cross them off my list. Bill Self did not do Darren Peterson any favors. And now Badunga's going to stay in college but leave Lawrence? I'm red flags, in my opinion, Gabe, around the Jayhawks.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Miami today laying 17.5. Miami wins, get a load of this, 152. When you hear 152, I don't care if you're laying 100. You're thinking you're winning that bet, right? They win 152 to 136. They only win by 16. Washington get the backdoor cover.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
You're going to invest. Find somebody else in the market right now, like JJ Weatherholt or someone else, because this is the worst time, I think, to buy a guy like Griffin.
You can bring up Polymarket right now. Go to the NL Rookie of the Year page. It is a roller coaster of everybody changing from favorite to not favorite to favorite to not favorite. Look at that. It's like a earthquake happening, Craig, and the Richter scale is going nuts.
Pro baseball today, only on SportsGrid.